Over the weekend, a small church in Gainesville, Florida, burned a copy of the Quran.
Hello, Bezel 333 here. 2 Christian pastors burn a copy of the Quran. Well, I'm just going to say it. Some Christians are, in fact, dumb, and as a result, they do dumb things. Listen to Terry Jones' reason for burning the Quran.
Well, of course, September 11th was and what happened was, of course, a very, very serious thing. I believe that it reveals the true colors of Islam, and we thought about what can we do to really show the dangers of what happened that day. And it's not only what happened that day, but actually what Islam does around the world. And we felt burning the Quran would be something of that magnitude.
Okay, so let me get this straight, Terry. You burned a copy of the Quran to show the dangers of Islam? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't 9/11 itself show the dangers of the Muslim faith if taken to extreme? Doesn't the regular occurrence of Muslim suicide bombers show the dangers of undiluted fundamental Islam? Burning the Quran does not show the dangers of Islam. All it does is make you look stupid and gives Christianity an unnecessary black eye. All you've accomplished is to further the false stereotype that most Christians are ignorant, bigoted, and intolerant of anyone that is different than they are, not to mention further inflaming anti-American sentiment by Muslim extremists. Good job, Terry.
It is the duty of Muslims to react. When the holy book, the Quran, gets burnt in public, then there's nothing left. If this happens, I think the first reaction that will follow is that wherever Americans are seen, no matter where they are in the world, they will be killed.
Now, it's not difficult to understand why Muslims get so riled up when the Quran is shown such disrespect. The Quran, comprising 114 chapters containing 6,247 verses, is called the mother of all books by Islam. Muslims believe that the Quran is the exact reproduction of the eternal Quran engraved on a tablet which sits in the presence of Allah. Now, to be fair, Muslims are not immune from burning stuff themselves. Immediately after the death of Muhammad in 632, his followers began collecting the written recordings of their teacher. This process took place between 646 and 650. However, as time went on, there were various other Muslim communities, such as in Syria and Iraq, that were writing down and reciting the Quran differently than were the followers of Muhammad in Saudi Arabia. So an official copy of the Quran was assembled and distributed in Mecca and Medina and Damascus. All other unofficial copies were burned, so as to not challenge the official text. Muslims also have been known to burn Bibles. And they're also fond of burning the American flag. And most horrifically, some are guilty of burning Christians themselves for believing in Jesus.
Joseph, a Sudanese Christian from the Nuba area, was forced into his church after it had been set ablaze. His hands have been burned beyond recognition.
Incredible that a pastor in Gainesville, Florida, with a church of no more than 50 people, can make this outrageous and distressful, disgraceful plan and get, the world's attention. But that's the world we live in right now. It doesn't in any way represent America or Americans. So we are hoping that the pastor decides not to do this. We're hoping against hope that if he does, it won't be covered.
Well, Jerry did decide to do this, and it was covered by the media. And as one would expect, thousands of protesters got angry and rushed a UN compound in northern Afghanistan, killing 12 people, 2 of which were reportedly beheaded.
What a horrible story I've come home to. Not the tsunami, not the nuclear disaster, not even Gaddafi. But what do you do when people, 20,000 of them, rush United Nations workers, good people doing good work in a tough place, killing them? Why? Because some character on the other side of the world burnt a holy book. Is this why young men and women risk and give their lives, arms, and legs in Afghanistan and Iraq so that any time on this planet that some clown decides to say something against Islam, innocent people get killed? Is this the deal?
Now, what we have here is a sad example of intolerance. We have two groups of people, one quite small in the case of Terry Jones and his tiny congregation, and the other quite large, the Muslims lashing out against innocent bystanders because of what Terry Jones did, who are both being intolerant towards each other. But just what does tolerance mean? You know, what's sorely needed in this day and age is to understand the real idea of tolerance better than is commonly the case. Here's an example of how tolerance is understood in today's world.
And how do you feel about religious tolerance in education?
I think that it should be taught that all religions and beliefs should be tolerated and valued and respected. But I don't think I think that there's a place, for religion. I don't think it's it should be tolerated in a science classroom per se. I mean, in a philosophy or religious studies classroom, sure, there should be religious tolerance, of course.
Okay, did you hear what she said? All religions should be tolerated, valued, and respected. Now, is that really the case? Is tolerance a synonym for value and respect? Well, the answer is yes and no, and here's what I mean. The popular understanding of tolerance today is that all beliefs and views have equal merit. No one view is better than any other view. We are all to be neutral and not judge any other person's viewpoint. Now, here's a public service announcement where children are asking their parents to teach them tolerance. Listen to what they say.
Teach us the concept of tolerance.
Teach us to understand one another.
Teach us to accept people
of different cultures
and persons with different beliefs than yours.
Please help us to create a world
where every man, woman, and child is treated equally.
Now, there it is again. Tolerance is understood these days as accepting people with different beliefs than yours, which implies that we accept the belief and the person. But that's not tolerance. Today's common understanding just does not work, and here's why. I got this example from Greg Koukl as he talks about relativism. And he says, take two statements side by side. Now, here's an example of this view of tolerance. Here's the first statement. All views are equally valid and no view is better than any other view. Now, take the second statement. Jesus is God in human flesh and Muslims are wrong when they say that he was only a prophet. Now, the first one I said sounds really good, but the second one, well, there you might say I'm just being intolerant. But why? Is the first one a view? Yeah, it is. Well, how about the second one? Is it not also a view? Well, yes, it is. And so don't you see that the first view is self-defeating? If all views have equal merit, then the view that Muslims are wrong about the person of Jesus is also equally valid. You see, this misunderstanding of tolerance is based on relativism and the idea that there is only one absolute truth in this world, and it's this, that there is no absolute truth in this world. But of course, that again is self-defeating. So, how about a better way to understand tolerance? It's actually the classic way of understanding the idea. You see, you can only tolerate somebody with whom you disagree. Tolerance is respecting a person even though you don't respect their ideas. In fact, tolerance can only come into play when you are actually convinced that someone is wrong about something. Now, there's three elements to this classic view of tolerance. The first one is tolerance of person. It's called civility or respect. It's treating a person with courtesy and allowing them to express their opinions without attacking them. And two, tolerance of ideas. To disagree with a person whose idea, in our opinion, is wrong in no way violates the classic idea of tolerance. And three, tolerance of behavior. A person has a right to believe what he wants, but he doesn't have the right to behave in ways that would harm others in society. Now, listen to this next clip and see where this classic idea of tolerance begins to break down.
Let's take an atheist and a Christian, for example. The Christian tells the atheist that they believe in God. The atheist thinks, well, this person has a really stupid idea.
Now, if our atheist friend would stop there and still respect the Christian's right to believe it, that would be true tolerance.
Worst case scenario, they think the person's stupid.
Correct. That's not being tolerant.
The atheist tells the Christian they do not believe in God. The Christian thinks, "Ooh, dirty heathen, burn in hell, burn in hell." That's the worst case scenario.
Now, I'll assume he meant the Christian responds to the atheist that he will burn in hell, and that's not being tolerant either.
Best case scenario, I hope the Lord finds you, but you're still going to burn in hell.
No, the best case scenario would be that the Christian give intelligent reasons to believe that God exists and that a dialogue would take place.
And that's what we should tolerate. Excuse me if I think that is a load of steaming horse piss. I cannot tolerate that.
But in fact, that is exactly what should be tolerated. Something you think is, in the words of our colorful atheist friend, steaming horse piss. Treat the person as having value and worth while at the same time not giving equal value to his or her idea. That is true tolerance. Now, here is one more muddled understanding of tolerance.
Any belief that tells a person that he can get his rewards for his actions after death. Any belief that tells a person that he is better than others because of who he is or what he believes about the world or the afterlife or whatever, cannot and must not be tolerated.
Now notice how he says any belief that tells a person must not be tolerated. But again, you can only tolerate beliefs and ideas that you disagree with. Now, I also disagree with the idea that one person is intrinsically better than another. But I will still defend a person's right to believe it even though I think they are wrong. And I'll try my hardest to change their thinking on that subject.
The Christian get-out-of-hell-free card or the Muslim martyrdom idea are obviously not equally destructive, but they are both destructive ideas. Both have no supporting evidence, and both are potentially able to destroy the planet.
Well, my opinion is that Christianity is so much more than a get-out-of-hell-free card if one would only be interested enough to examine it fairly. And just how is Christianity a destructive idea? God in human flesh coming into time and space history to save sinful people who can't save themselves? How is that destructive? Christianity has no supporting evidence? Hardly. It's founded on historical events and eyewitness testimony. I totally disagree with this person's opinion, but this is where tolerance kicks in. I respect this person as a person and also respect his right to express that opinion of which I disagree. So, for any Christians out there, next time any of you have the inclination to burn a Quran because you think Muslims are wrong, do this instead. Leave the butane lighter by the fireplace, and instead of inflaming those with whom you disagree, try actually dialoguing with them, listen to them, ask them questions, and if they're tolerant of you, be ready to give a reasoned defense of the hope of the Christian faith.